day, ladies and gentlemen. Spring Internship 2020. A semester you will never forget as long as you live. What I want to do is, as we wrap this up, I want to put a few things in context. Before we left for break a couple of weeks ago, we saw slowing worldwide economic growth, including here in the U.S., still going forward. There were trade tensions. The stock market was on an upward trend, positive trend going up. We had low unemployment, 3.5%. We had over 7.5 million jobs open, mainly because of a lack of skills. And that's where you were building your skills to come into the workforce. Interest rates were very low, allowing for investment by companies. And we had a lot of political instability all over the world, including the U.S. This is probably the most unstable political time we have ever seen that's across the globe. There was some virus in Wuhan, China, and we joked about it a little bit, but it wasn't in our face. Classes and internships were rolling along. We had a relatively mild winter. Some of you have had spring break trips planned or graduation trips. Everything was sort of good. Business as usual, just flowing ahead. People were planning for study abroad. Then we have this Black Swan event. And I'm going to go off a little bit here, but the Black Swan theory, since many times going back to Roman times, swans were all white, was a fundamental truth. And in 1726, two people from Australia found two black swans. The rare events. They have a high, extreme impact. They can only be predicted retrospectively and not prospectively, meaning you can't say these things are coming. They sort of hit you. So a black swan event is a highly improbable event with three characteristics. It's unpredictable, it carries a massive impact, and after the fact, we concoct an explanation that appears less random and more predictable than it was. So what we have now is this. No way would we ever predict this. The impact we can already see is massive. What's gone on in your internship and at your college is a microcosm of what's going on in the world. And then we try to make explanations for it that, yes, we should have known this. But it wasn't predictable. So when we think about it, they're highly unlikely to happen, but would actually have severe consequences. I wanted to put what was going on in that context. We want to take a minute and look here, and this sort of surprised me when I looked at global employment in the S&P 500 companies, and then small and medium size. So what we can see is that 17% of Americans work for an S&P 500 and 83% work for small and medium sized business. So I just want you to keep that in your mind as you move forward. Some general comments here. Nothing like this has ever happened. Millions have been laid off. It's impacted you in so many ways. You, each one of you and I, we experienced a trauma. It's not easy to understand and deal with. So I'd like to put out there, what is trauma? Trauma results from an event, series of events, or set of circumstance that experienced by an individual or a group of people that is physically or emotionally harmful or threatening, and that has lasting adverse effects on our functioning, our physical, social, emotional, or spiritual well-being. So that's what trauma is, and we've all been traumatized by this. Well, when you have trauma, the instinct of the individual is to survive. And sometimes that wanting to survive defines our reaction, regardless of what we know. Okay, these are things that are within us. This instinct is driving it, not necessarily our minds where we can rationalize. And I think about how we deal with trauma. There's physical ways, emotional, behavioral, cognitive, and they're all here. So what I did is I highlighted those things in yellow that I've experienced, okay? And I think many of you could relate to this, might relating to others, but we know that we're dealing with the trauma. But our responses are normal reactions to abnormal events. So keep that in context, I hope, because things will get better, they will go on. Will we have a changed world? Absolutely, I think. But we will survive. And how we deal with this is really, we have to keep a focus on how we're doing physically, socially, mentally, behaviorally. Through this time, I will do my best to be sensitive, I'll be adaptable and flexible and open to new ideas as we try to close out the internship. Well, what are our components? 1, complete the reflections if you're still working. If you are done, complete them through your last day. Complete the modules as indicated. There's 4 of them out there. Make sure you do them. I've modified the presentation. The presentation I would like to get done by May 2nd. The earlier the better, so that we can wrap all of this up, and those that of you who are graduating can get on with things, and just to get it done. What I'm looking for is a combination of PowerPoint and video. And I think it should be around 15 minutes. You can record with me, that we can have a dialogue and present it as a discussion format, or you can record it yourself and submit it. We have a lot of technology today to record and edit things. Pictures and images are very powerful. Use them freely. Don't just fill up slides with words. Think of it as telling a story. And that's the story that you'll tell your children and your grandchildren and hopefully your great-grandchildren. When you're done, we'll post it in Canvas. What's the content? Okay, I suggest the following. But if you want to go in a different direction, just let me know. I'm very open to that. So here's some of the things I think you could cover. What were the learning objectives you set at the beginning of the internship? What progress have you made? What happened with your internship? How did you react? How did you feel? What did you learn from the experience of your internship and the coronavirus crisis? How's this going to impact your future? What advice would you give to a new intern? We had that section, Module 1 out there, and I think they're good, but I think the time has come to create something better, more useful. So please make sure you include this. What advice would you give to a freshman coming to Geneseo in September 2020? Consider a story format. Okay? Work hours. If you've completed your hours or intend that you will complete them, no further action relative to that is needed. If you have not achieved the working hours that you need for the internship, we are in the middle of, at this point, one-on-one discussions to figure out what our options are and how we can do it. Please ask me any questions. If you want to meet virtually, I'm open to meeting virtually at your convenience and my convenience. And let's wrap this up and move on, because the world's a wonderful place.